It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. And this Wellness Wednesday, I admit this one's kind of half-baked. But it's a pondering, and it's another one where I'm looking for feedback on it. We're talking about this on the Discord. The conversation so far has shaped this video because I'm souring on the term gaslighting because of terminology creep. Let me do the help support this channel, then we'll get into it. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. We met last week's goal. Let's do it again. Thank you so much. Okay, so gaslighting, from the film Gaslight, is a form of manipulation and emotional abuse where someone intentionally instills doubt about your mind, about an event, or your perceptions. Emphasis on intentionally. But now we've got this term, unintentional gaslighting. And to me, that the intentionality of gaslighting is what makes it gaslighting, instead of somebody just being mistaken and kind of unsupportive and, maybe insensitive. Something that unintentionally causes you to question reality. It's too easy for that to be manipulated by abusive people who use therapy speak to make people around them miserable and control them. And, scapegoating is a form of gaslighting, which is deliberate. Coercion is definitely deliberate. Lying, deliberate. The thing about a lie, as opposed to merely being mistaken, is that, it's deliberate. You're not telling the truth. And it's just too easy now for someone to accuse someone of gaslighting to make them look bad when somebody's like, look, what you're saying happened just didn't happen. The difference between somebody going, no, you're wrong, and gaslighting somebody is the knowledge that what the person is saying did happen. And you're saying, are you sure? Because you get forgetful sometimes, deliberately trying to manipulate them. And the reason this is important is because gaslighting is a very, very trendy term. And so it's too easy for truly abusive people to use it as gaslighting. Gaslighting has become gaslighting. And the truth is, even if you're sure something didn't happen and the other person seems absolutely sure it did, what are you supposed to do? Give up your position? What you have absolutely no recollection, or you have a different recollection of what happened so that the other person doesn't accuse you of gaslighting? That makes no sense. The term has become kind of toxic. And so I think, like so many things, other than the term gaslighting, it's better to use the specific tactic. You are scapegoating me. You are blaming me for something that wasn't my fault. You are pushing me to believe something I don't believe. That's coercion. What you're saying is just not true. If you call a liar on lying, they're going to say, no, I'm not lying. But, you can say that's not true based on fact. And then, nobody should be pushing you to agree something happened that you don't remember happening. Because if you don't, well, then you're gaslighting them. And often I've found when one person is sure something happened and another person is sure it didn't, somebody translated something. Somebody, instead of focusing on what the person said, remembers what they meant or remembers why it hurt. And so they have a very vivid memory of a translated event, whereas the other person may not have said exactly what they remember either. What they were trying to say came out the wrong way or something like that. But in a healthy relationship, you don't have to butt heads with this shit. Like, okay, if somebody's accusing you of wrongdoing and you're like, no, what? Innocent until proven guilty. This is why I stand by innocent until proven guilty. The minute we have a guilty until proven innocent standard, abusers win. Okay? But something obviously upset the other person. And the best you can really do is go, look, whatever I said, I'm sorry it hurt you that badly. I do not remember saying what you said. But at least you're expressing caring. And if the person isn't trying to control you, if they're not trying to be coercive, that should at least be the beginning of them saying, okay, what do you remember? And, if that doesn't happen, well, it may not be about you. For one, the person might be triggered by trauma. And this is the really, really dicey thing, is that trauma makes memories stick to each other. Trauma makes us read in to something another person said, and then we go to remember it. We lose the translation. This is something I have to watch a lot in myself. I'm much better at it than I used to be from a lot of practice. It's a challenge to work with a person with trauma without taking blame for shit you didn't do or shit you didn't do intentionally, but also not belittle them, put them down, make them question their own reality. And it's surprisingly easy to do unintentionally. If someone is already having doubts about their ability to do something, and you say something as simple as, you're sure about this, it's, I've had it like, you're saying I can't do it. It's like, no, I did. Yeah, you're only saying that because you think I can't do it. The mind reading kicks in, right? And that person will be sure you don't think they can do it. It's not true, right? And sometimes it's tough because the longer you wait to work it out, the more the memories fade. And the unfortunate thing is, unless you're a professional, there is a point where you have to say, look, this is bad for my mental health. I can't do this. And then you may get accused of abandoning them. But gaslighting, I'm ready to get done with the term and just stick to lying, manipulating things, scapegoating, coercing, manipulating the past, are you sure? Knowing no one is 100% sure. One of the things that drives me crazy is people who refuse to accept someone's subjective experience as their legitimate experience, not absolute truth, unless somebody's got a recording. And I'm not there are two sides to every story kind of person, because sometimes the two sides are a truth and a lie. But in the majority of cases, I believe that if you take the coercion out, if you take the Are you sure? Because nobody likes to be talked to that way. And it's tough because sometimes when someone is very upset and someone who's a careless speaker doesn't understand why, they'll do something very dismissive like, oh, you forget things all the time, or oh, it's not that big a deal. And that can be incredibly invalidating to the other person. And originally this video was going to be about alternative names for unintentional gaslighting. The one I've heard is Westworlding, where somebody just goes, it doesn't look like anything to me, from the show Westworld, because of, their very different programming blocks or whatever. But I think that we do better by getting away from these trendy colloquialisms and actually communicating with precision. And I think that terms like gaslighting detract from that. They take away more than they add. And as much as it can be a very validating concept for people to go, no, I'm not crazy, this person is trying to shift reality on me. It's one of those things that if it's actually going on, you can't say. And this, I didn't learn this about gaslighting, kind of did, but I learned this with sexism in the workplace. If you really work in a sexist workplace, you can't say that was sexist. You have to really drill down and make your case on the individual things. That was condescending. That was inappropriate overstep. That was, stepping in and doing what was my job, not staying in your lane. You have to be very specific instead of going, that's sexist, that's racist, in order to be effective, especially in a legitimately sexist and racist environment. You have to be precise. And that's not fair. That's the reality that if you truly believe your workplace is sexist or your workplace is racist or homophobic or transphobic or whatever, the deck is stacked against you. Yes, these terms exist. An understanding of institutionalized sexism exists because you're in a situation that's not fair. And because it's not fair, if you want, sometimes the best thing you can do is leave. A lot of times, the best thing you can do is leave. But if you want to stay and try to navigate the situation, you have to be precise. You have to get better instead of going, that's gaslighting, right? What about it was? I'm telling you what I honestly remember happening, and you're telling me, oh, it just didn't happen. You forgot. That's not fair. Neither of us have perfect memories. I've used that to navigate these situations all the time. Neither of us have perfect memories. So I'm missing something, but don't say nothing happened. Don't say I just forgot. It's not true. And, it is possible sometimes we do forget, but I find when I've actually forgotten, when the person mentions it again, I get this slight sense of, yeah, something happened there. Whereas if I have absolutely no memory of it, I don't have that as an adult. As a kid, yeah, I have huge memory gaps. But as an adult, no. I've got pretty good recall. Not perfect, but pretty good recall. And especially when you've got a diagnosis, a lot of people go, oh, you just don't remember. Oh, you're just traumatized. It's like, fuck you. And that's a big thing with trauma recovery. You have to get really tough when people do that, because submitting to that is a great way of getting depressed. It's that, oh, just let us handle this for you because we don't want to stress you out. and things like that when you want to do it for yourself. And of course, you're never going to build that resilience. You're never going to build that distress tolerance if people are constantly doing shit for you. It's ridiculous. So what started as trying to find clearer terms just makes me think that the term gaslighting is actually an impediment to communication instead of something that adds something, because it's a catch-all category of a bunch of different negative behaviors. But when we're at the point of talking about unconscious gaslighting, we're now stretching the term to include something that is fundamentally not the thing. The same way we, when we say male nurse or female firefighter, or you saying nurse is inherently female and firefighter is inherently male, right? Do we say female nurse as well as male nurse? If that happens to be the way someone speaks, okay, equal. If we say, male firefighter instead of female firefighter, usually, the correct version of that would be fireman or firewoman. But you see what I mean? Like, the idea that we have to say unintentional gaslighting indicates that gaslighting is inherently intentional. So why the fuck are we talking about unintentional gaslighting? It's just, this is where the jargon gets in the way of both good mental health, because you drive yourself so crazy trying to understand what is actually going on because the words are hard. But also, you get gaslit by the concept of gaslighting and the communication. People, it's like, you're gaslighting me. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. See, you're gaslighting me more. No, I'm not gaslighting you. I didn't intend to. Well, you're gaslighting me unintentionally. Think about how that conversation runs, right? The definition of gaslighting is deliberate. And one of the biggest communication mistakes a lot of people make is assuming deliberate intent when there is none. And I have tried to really practice giving somebody an opportunity to clarify or back off. And it's funny because someone who used to be in my Discord server pulled a screen grab of, here's Leanna being a bully. And what I was actually doing is somebody made a comment and I said, I certainly hope that wasn't directed at me, as a way of giving the person a chance to back off or save face instead of really coming down on them. Right? That's not bullying. That's the opposite of bullying. If someone was a bully, they'd be, that was about me and you did it deliberately. And you got to give the person a chance to go, sorry, I misspoke, or yeah, okay, that came out the wrong way. You want to de-escalate. And accusing somebody of gaslighting, which is an inherently deliberate thing, they're going to be on their guard. They're going to get defensive. It's going to escalate the tension instead of de-escalate the tension. So better alternatives for letting someone know they are really making you doubt yourself is to say more precisely, with what they're saying is, look, I'm feeling very dismissed right now. And someone may say, oh, I don't intend to make you feel dismissed. All right, well, please don't say, oh, you're making too big a deal out of this. Oh, it was nothing, right? Please stop saying that. Either they'll listen and go, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Or they'll fight you and, then it's intentional. The minute you let them know it's a problem and they keep doing it, then it's intentional. You don't have to make assumptions there. But there are different categories of unintentional gaslighting, and we all do some of them. Toxic positivity is a big one. Oh, look on the bright side. Let someone feel bad for a minute for shit's sake, disregarding other people's opinions. That thing that's also called denial of subjectivity. Like, two people may have very different perspectives of how someone came across or how something felt to them. And the way that balances is just saying what your experience was. Don't focus on what the other person intended. Excuses or over-explaining about something. This is a big one, and I'm going to be very, very gentle here because explaining can be a fawn response. And this is when one person's trauma bumps up against another person's trauma and both people's traumas are valid. But the best thing to do is make sure validation of the other person's feelings. And if you think it's necessary, an apology. Don't apologize for things you're not sorry for. There's only one reason to apologize. You're sorry. But make sure the other person has heard that before you launch into the explanation. Not just you said it. Make sure they heard it and it's landed. If someone is feeling very defensive, then they're going to need a minute to come down from that. And bombarding them with a lengthy explanation, a very wordy explanation, risks overwhelming them. And the difference between an excuse and a reason is often a question of accountability. Like, all right, yeah, I can see how that hurt you, and I'm sorry for that. Can I tell you what I was actually trying to do so I didn't do it deliberately? That is preparing to provide a reason. That shouldn't be hurtful. Here's why is an excuse. If a person's told you it's hurt them, you don't get to tell them they have the right or no right to be hurt. That is, that is manipulating the evidence, for lack of a better term. It's manipulating reality. The other side of that is when people just can't admit they were wrong or just can't admit that they forgot something. And this was something that, ironically, having people treat me like I was crazy made worse for me instead of better for a really long time. When people are telling you up is down and black is white, and blue is red, you become very, very hesitant to admit you're wrong. And what I had to recognize was that if I don't trust the people I'm around to admit when I mess something up, the problem's the people, or the problem's the relationship. And I really start thinking quite deeply about that particular group if I don't feel like I can admit, sorry, because it's really, that's a sign something's really wrong. And it could be it's something you have to work on in yourself. For me, it was a combination of both. For me, my trauma told me that if I made a mistake, I was going to get screamed at. I was going to get physically harmed. I was going to get, stuff taken away from me. It really went catastrophic, and it was tough because those things really happened in the past. It was the norm growing up. And so I couldn't tell myself, oh, that's Nah, you're making too big a deal out of it. No, you have to validate that happened. That's why you feel that way. Trying to talk yourself out of a reaction like that doesn't work because you're self-gaslighting. You're intentionally telling yourself something that's not true. And to try to manipulate you into getting past or getting over something. And that's the exact wrong way to do it. And a lot of people who do these behaviors, they self-gaslight a lot. They are trying to talk themselves into things that are not true. And one of the things I do with clients is when they're like, it's probably no big deal. I'm like, hold on. Let's make space for the fear. Let's give you a moment to feel the fear or to feel the frustration. Let's not blow past it. Because if you ignore that feeling's going to become stronger. And it's not going to let you go. Feelings are feedback. And if you're ignoring something, it's just going to get louder. And that's really the way to stop that internal cycle that may be leading you to unintentionally dismiss, minimize, reject, tell somebody up is down. And then one thing that song got a big on me from, it was a line in, I think it was a court of, I never remember the name of the book. I remember it as A Court of Boys in Starlight. A court of something in Starlight. Anyway, there was a line that Elaine was just too nice to tell him to go away, so she just ignored him. And that, to me, is like, that's not nice. Being indirect, hinting is not nice. And some people think that telling what they believe is white lies can backfire. You're trying to be nice. You're trying to save the person's feelings. Most people aren't great at lying. It's going to show on your face. There's going to be something in your tone that isn't convincing. And so they're going to start going, what's going on? The whole, oh, you always look good. That is intended to be complimentary. It's intended to be charming. But, if somebody has just had a horrible disease, no, they don't look their best. So, saying you look tired, you look worn out. That is not saying somebody looks bad. It's just saying you look like you're struggling. And that's better than, and white lies are tough because we live in families of, oh, you have to be nice. Be nice to your sister. Be nice to your mother, right? Boys don't get the, oh, be nice to your brother nearly as much as be nice to your sister. It's the way we socialize boys and girls. And so this is particularly a problem for feminine socialized people. I say feminine socialized people because some men, cisgender men, are subjected to more feminine socialization, and so they pick this up. And then, of course, trans men grew up in this bullshit. And one of the very, very little talked about issues for trans people is they get the bullshit of both sexes. So trans dudes get all the bullshit of girl world, and then they have to go out and try to, internally they're a guy, but their understanding of what words mean are feminine socialized. And so they end up just carrying a lot around. I mean, a lot of guys don't say things are bothering them because they've had those bad experiences. And I do think that denial of your emotional truth, people don't realize it's intentional. It is intentional. It's terribly habit forming, but it's intentional. If you say like, look, I'm getting overwhelmed, and somebody goes, I don't care, or too bad, that's just abusive, okay? And it could be the person's really angry. If they do it enough, it is characteristic and it's wrong. And too many people feel that it's funny because men think women get this less and women think men get this less. And the truth is that both genders get it. Both genders get it from women, quite frankly, because a lot of men kind of freak out the minute there's tears because they don't know what to do and they blame themselves. Like, oh my God, what do I do? Whereas women, you know, girls hear from their mothers, I don't care that you're upset. Boys hear from their mothers and their girlfriends, I don't care that you're upset. More often, I mean, I've had plenty of men say to me, I don't care that you're upset. Quit whining. They are dead to me if they do that. That includes family. That is not acceptable. And, you know, okay, on social media it is accepted, right? But you decide how people treat you. People are not given what they deserve. People are given what they tolerate. And you have the right to go, no, I will not accept you invalidating my experience the way you're doing. I have a specific memory. I have a specific recollection of events. I'm not saying it's letter perfect memory, right? I don't have complete recall, but this is real for me. Please treat it accordingly. That's the only way you can really work it out. Interested in what you're going to say about this. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use but can't afford it. This really helps people out, folks. Really, really helps getting those supplemented Leanna Care sessions for people who have stress because they're going through a financially difficult time. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching and be well.